The Dam Busters, 1955. This isn't just a war movie about bravery. It's a film about engineering brilliance turning the tide of an entire war. Engineer Barnes Wallis spent years designing the bouncing bomb, and this film follows Wing Commander Guy Gibson and the legendary 6117 Squadron as they attempt what everyone thought was impossible. The dam's mission was real. The precision required was insane. What makes this film absolutely legendary is how it balances technical detail with genuine human stakes. You watch soldiers train relentlessly, understanding that many won't come home. Director Michael Anderson captures the grim reality of medieval castle-style raids on defended targets. The special effects work, especially the final dam explosions, still hold up because they used actual explosions. This wasn't CGI fantasy. This was controlled chaos filmed with incredible precision. The film earned massive box office success, cementing itself as a cornerstone of British war cinema. Critics praised its technical accuracy and thrilling narrative. But here's what's wild. The film inspired countless copycat missions that failed spectacularly because the real raid worked through sheer luck as much as planning. The Dams Busters became the blueprint for impossible mission films, influencing everything from James Bond to Mission Impossible. It's pure cinema magic, wrapped in historical authenticity. Sink the Bismarck, 1960. This one's a different beast entirely. Instead of ground combat or aerial dogfights, you're watching a tense naval thriller about the hunt for Germany's most powerful warship. British naval forces pursued the Bismarck across the Atlantic, and director Lewis Gilbert transforms this into a claustrophobic pressure cooker, where mistakes cost thousands of lives. Every decision matters. Every second counts. The film splits its narrative between the ship's command center and the actual warships hunting their prey. You feel the tension mounting as intelligence reports arrive, coordinates shift, and the noose tightens. Kenneth More delivers a controlled, professional performance as the commanding officer, embodying the stiff upper lip British character that actually works here because the circumstances demand it. When things go wrong, they go catastrophically wrong, and the film doesn't shy away from the human cost. What's remarkable is how little actual combat footage the film needed. Most of the tension comes from waiting, calculating, and the slow realization that despite all their firepower and technology, British forces are still vulnerable. The film earned respectable box office returns and critical praise for its strategic complexity. Modern audiences often overlook this gem because it's not explosions and chaos, it's chess moves with battleships. The Cruel Sea, 1953. Based on Nicholas Monserrat's novel, this film follows a Royal Navy ship tasked with protecting convoys from German U-boats. Sounds straightforward, right? Wrong. The Cruel Sea is one of the most brutally honest depictions of naval warfare ever made. Men drown in oil slicks. Ships explode. There's no heroic music, just the sound of destruction and screaming. Director Charles Fren strips away any romanticism about seafaring. The ocean becomes the enemy as much as the Germans, cold, indifferent, and absolutely lethal. Jack Hawkins leads a stellar cast through sequences that still disturb viewers today. When depth charges explode near the screen, you feel the vibration. When men go overboard, the camera doesn't look away. This is warfare at its most visceral and meaningless. The film performed exceptionally well at the British box office because audiences recognized the authenticity. Veterans who served in actual convoys reported that this film captured the psychological terror they experienced, the constant vigilance, and the helplessness of watching ships in your convoy get torpedoed while you can do nothing but keep moving. The Cruel Sea earned multiple BAFTA nominations and stands as a masterclass in realistic war cinema. It's uncomfortable, it's necessary, and it absolutely refuses to glorify anything. Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, 2003, technically set during the Napoleonic Wars rather than World War II, but this film deserves inclusion because it represents the pinnacle of British naval storytelling. Russell Crowe as Captain Jack Aubrey pursues a French warship across unforgiving seas, and Peter Weir directs with the precision of someone who understands military strategy and personal drama in equal measure. The film is basically World War I in sailboat form. The crew speaks with regional accents, the ship heaves with authenticity, and Crowe's performance captures that peculiar British military tradition of combining lethal competence with eccentric personality. He's a warrior, a scientist, and a musician all rolled into one. The film explores themes of honor, duty, and the price of command that resonate across centuries of warfare. What shocked audiences was how the film sacrificed box office appeal for authenticity. There's no romance subplot, minimal action for action's sake, and extensive sequences devoted to understanding nautical procedure. Yet critics praised it as one of the most authentic depictions of naval combat ever filmed. Cinematographer Russell Boyd won the Oscar for Best Cinematography, capturing both the brutal beauty of open ocean and the tight, dangerous confines of a warship's interior. The film earned solid returns worldwide and influenced subsequent war film production standards. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, 1943. Here's something wild. This film was released while World War II was still happening. Directors Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger made a deliberately provocative wartime film that questioned British military traditions. The film follows a fictional officer through the Boer War, World War I, and into World War II, showing how military thinking becomes obsolete, how honor gets confused with stubbornness, and how the next generation must sometimes reject their mentors to survive. The film used Technicolor at a time when most war films were shot in black and white. It's visually stunning and deliberately theatrical because Powell and Pressburger understood that cinema could explore ideas as much as show action. Roger Livesey delivers a nuanced performance as the title character, a man who's brave and honorable, but dangerously out of touch with modern warfare. He becomes a symbol of everything Britain's military needed to evolve past. The film was genuinely controversial at the time. Military officials complained that it portrayed outdated thinking. Churchill's government worried it would damage morale by criticizing the establishment. Yet the film won over audiences precisely because it was asking difficult questions during difficult times. It proved British cinema could be intellectually rigorous and visually stunning simultaneously. Modern critics recognize it as Powell and Pressburger's masterpiece, and one of the greatest films ever made. Period. In Which We Serve, 1942. Noel Coward wrote, produced, and starred in this film about a Royal Navy destroyer and its crew, and it's essentially the origin point for the entire modern war film genre. The film follows the ship through combat, showing officers and enlisted men grappling with duty, fear, and loss. It's told through flashbacks and memories, fragmentary and emotional in ways most 1940s films weren't. What's remarkable is how the film treats class distinctions realistically without making them melodramatic. Officers and sailors have different concerns, different pressures, different forms of courage. They're not all heroes in the traditional sense. Some are terrified. Some make mistakes. The film respects their individual struggles without pretending rank doesn't matter. It's genuinely progressive filmmaking for 1942. The film was directed by David Lean in his directorial debut, and it clearly influenced his entire career of epic war films. In Which We Serve proved audiences craved authenticity and character depth, that soldiers weren't cardboard cutouts, but complex humans. It won an Academy Award and earned massive box office returns. British filmmakers recognized they'd found something powerful. The idea that personal drama and military strategy could coexist in cinema. This film basically wrote the rulebook that every British war film since has followed. The Desert. Rats, 1953. Based on actual events in North Africa, this film follows a British commando unit dispatched to destroy a German petrol dump in the Sahara. It's a straightforward mission that becomes increasingly complicated when they discover a massive German tank unit nearby. Director Guy Green captures the desert as both beautiful and merciless, a landscape that kills as efficiently as combat. Richard Attenborough leads a small ensemble, and the film revels in tactical complexity. Should they complete their original mission, or report the German forces? Do they have enough ammunition? Can they survive in the desert long enough for headquarters to respond? These questions drive the narrative as much as combat sequences. The film treats soldiers as professionals doing calculated work, not heroes charging forward without thinking. What surprised audiences was the film's skepticism about military command structures. The soldiers often know better than their officers what's happening on the ground. They're frustrated by bureaucracy and politics interfering with tactical sense. The film earned solid box office returns and critical praise for its gritty realism. It influenced military films for decades by suggesting that intelligence, adaptation, and tactical flexibility mattered more than heroic charges. The film remains underrated in modern discussions but stands as essential British war cinema. The Hill, 1965, Sean Connery in a film where he doesn't fire a single weapon. Instead, he's an iron-willed sergeant in a British military prison during wartime, and the film is absolutely ruthless about exploring institutional abuse disguised as discipline. Director Sidney Lumet took this relatively unknown story and created something genuinely disturbing about how military hierarchy can corrupt good men. The film is almost claustrophobic in its focus on the prison compound, a sandy fortress where punishment takes the form of pointless, exhausting exercises. Men are broken down mentally as much as physically. Connery's character tries to maintain humanity within an inhumane system, but the system is designed to destroy humanity. The friction between discipline and abuse becomes increasingly unbearable to watch. The film premiered at Cannes and won the festival's Best Screenplay award. It earned the BAFTA for Best British Cinematography, with the desert cinematography emphasizing the bleakness of the location. Critics praised Connery's nuanced performance, arguing he'd finally escaped his Bond persona to deliver genuine dramatic work. The film underperformed commercially because audiences wanted escapism, not institutional critique, but it fundamentally changed how British cinema approached military drama. The Hill proved cinema could examine the systemic darkness within military culture, without explicitly showing combat. The Bridges at Toko-ri, 1954. This Korean War film starring William Holden, directed by Mark Robson, is technically not World War II, but it captures the same spirit of British and American pilots facing impossible odds. The film explores psychological pressure as much as physical danger. Pilots must repeatedly fly suicide missions against heavily defended bridges, knowing their chances of survival diminish with each sortie. The film's power comes from its honest depiction of pilot psychology. Men become increasingly traumatized with each mission. Relationships fracture under pressure. Some soldiers develop coping mechanisms that destroy them. The film doesn't pretend war is noble or necessary, even when the cause seems just. It's the cinematic equivalent of watching a soldier slowly break apart from the inside. Director Mark Robson crafted sequences of air combat that influenced every subsequent aviation film. The special effects and practical flying footage remain impressive decades later. The film earned significant box office success and critical acclaim for its psychological depth. It proved audiences were ready for war films that questioned whether sacrifice was ever meaningful or just tragic. Breach of Promise, 1941. A lesser-known film about a British military officer's personal crisis during wartime. It explores themes of infidelity, honor, and the conflict between personal morality and military duty. In an era when most British war films focused on combat or espionage, this film dared to explore domestic drama as equally important to military operations. The film reflects British society's obsession with propriety and honor, showing how military reputation could be destroyed by personal scandal as effectively as by military defeat. It's a relatively small-scale film, but one that influenced how British cinema approached character development. Instead of treating soldiers as instruments of military strategy, the film humanizes them as people with conflicting loyalties and desires. While not a massive commercial success, the film earned respect for its intellectual sophistication. It proved British war cinema could explore psychological and moral complexity without requiring explosions or spectacular action sequences. Modern critics recognize it as a precursor to the character-driven war films that would become increasingly common in British cinema. The Great Escape, 1963. Yes, it's technically a Hollywood production, but the film focuses so extensively on British characters that it deserves inclusion on any list of great British war films. Steve McQueen and James Garner headline this prison break masterpiece based on true events from Stalag Luft III. It's the definitive escape film, the template every subsequent film in the genre follows. Director John Sturges assembled an impossibly talented cast and created something that functions simultaneously as thrilling entertainment and thoughtful examination of military resistance. The film shows planning, coordination, camaraderie, and the willingness to sacrifice for collective goals. Every character has distinct personality and skills. The ensemble work is absolutely masterful, with Richard Attenborough, Charles Bronson, and Donald Pleasence creating memorable characters in limited screen time. The famous motorcycle chase featuring McQueen became iconic cinema, influencing action filmmaking for decades. Yet the film's most powerful element is its tragic ending. History dictates the outcome. Many escapees were executed. The film refuses to sanitize this reality. It earned massive box office returns and multiple Academy Award nominations. The Great Escape became the standard by which all subsequent escape films are measured. It's commercially successful cinema that maintains intellectual and emotional integrity. A Bridge Too Far, 1977. Richard Attenborough's massive ensemble epic about Operation Market Garden, the failed attempt to capture Dutch bridges in 1944. This film assembles an incomparable cast including Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Anthony Hopkins, Laurence Olivier, and Gene Hackman. It's cinema at the scale of Empire, yet it's about failure, overconfidence, and the terrible cost of miscalculation. The film's power derives from its refusal to simplify complex military strategy. Viewers must follow multiple narrative threads, understand tactical objectives, recognize where communications break down. It's demanding cinema that respects audience intelligence. Director Attenborough, himself a decorated officer, brings military authenticity to every scene. You understand why generals made the decisions they did, and you understand why those decisions were catastrophic. The film earned a budget of $15 million at a time when that represented enormous financial commitment. It made back its investment, but underperformed commercial expectations because audiences found it too long, too complex, too unwilling to provide clear heroes or villains. Yet critics and military historians praised it as the most accurate depiction of Operation Market Garden ever filmed. Modern viewers recognize it as Attenborough's masterpiece, a film that transformed how large-scale war films balance ensemble storytelling with historical accuracy. Dunkirk, 2017. Christopher Nolan's visually stunning and psychologically devastating account of the 1940 evacuation of Allied forces from Dunkirk Beach. Using minimal dialogue and Hans Zimmer's pulsating score featuring a ticking clock sound design, Nolan creates urgency that's physically exhausting. The film follows soldiers from three perspectives: land, sea, and air, creating a fragmented narrative that mirrors the chaos of military evacuation. The genius of Dunkirk is its refusal to provide psychological comfort. There are moments of quiet reflection, but they're rare and brief. The film is relentlessly tense, showing soldiers drowning in cold ocean water, aircraft running out of fuel, ships exploding from U-boat torpedoes. Nolan shoots action with intimate camera work, making the enormous evacuation feel like personal, immediate struggle. The scale is epic, but the experience is claustrophobic. The film earned massive critical acclaim and significant box office returns, proving audiences would embrace unconventional war storytelling. It won multiple Academy Award nominations and earned multiple BAFTA awards. Cinematographer Hoyte van Hoytema's work is visually stunning, using large-format film to capture both the beauty of the French coast and the horror of evacuation. Dunkirk represents modern British war cinema at its absolute peak, technically accomplished, narratively ambitious, and emotionally devastating. The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957. David Lean's masterpiece about British prisoners forced to construct a railway bridge in Burma under Japanese captivity. Alec Guinness delivers an Oscar-winning performance as Colonel Nicholson, a man so consumed with pride in construction that he nearly becomes complicit in his own destruction. It's a character study disguised as action-adventure, exploring themes of honor, obsession, and the fine line between cooperation and betrayal. The film's brilliance lies in its moral complexity. Nicholson isn't purely heroic or purely villainous. He's a man trying to maintain dignity and military protocol in circumstances designed to strip away humanity. His need to construct a masterpiece bridge becomes a symbol of his psychological struggle. Director Lean's cinematography captures jungle beauty and brutality simultaneously, showing nature as simultaneously magnificent and indifferent to human suffering. The film earned an unprecedented budget for its time and used it to create authentic locations and practical effects. The famous bridge, actually constructed for filming, allowed for a spectacular finale that was simultaneously thrilling and tragic. The film won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Guinness. It earned massive international box office success. The bridge on the River Kwai became the template by which all subsequent David Lean epics are measured. It's a complete cinematic experience, thrilling, emotionally complex, and historically informed. Lawrence of Arabia, 1962. There are films, and then there is Lawrence of Arabia. David Lean's sweeping masterpiece spans 222 minutes and transforms the life of T.E. Lawrence into a psychological epic exploring identity, colonialism, and the corruption of idealism through power. Peter O'Toole delivers a career-defining performance as Lawrence, a man caught between cultures, sexually ambiguous, psychologically damaged by violence and betrayal, and ultimately consumed by his own legend. The film's production was legendary in itself. Lean shot in authentic Middle Eastern locations including Jordan and Morocco, coordinating massive crews across hostile desert environments. The budget of $15 million was enormous for 1962, and every penny appears on screen. The cinematography is breathtaking, with the desert functioning as character and metaphor simultaneously. The film's most famous shot, Omar Sharif emerging from a mirage, required weeks of planning and created one of cinema's most iconic images. Lawrence of Arabia swept the Academy Awards, winning 7 Oscars including Best Picture and Best Director. It became the third highest-grossing film of 1962. Critics initially struggled with the film's length and moral ambiguity, but it ultimately earned universal recognition as a masterpiece. The film influenced generations of filmmakers, including Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. It's cinematically ambitious, narratively complex, and thematically sophisticated. Lawrence of Arabia stands as the greatest British war film ever made, a film about war that transcends genre conventions to become something infinitely more profound, a meditation on power, identity, and the human cost of ideology. So there you have it. 15 films that prove British war cinema is genuinely unmatched. From David Lean's sweeping epics to intimate character studies, these films show war from perspectives America rarely explores. But here's what I want to know. Which of these British war films shocked you the most? And more importantly, do you think modern British war films have the courage to ask the uncomfortable questions these classics were asking? Drop your answers in the comments and let's debate this properly. Because if there's one thing British war films understand, it's that complacency kills.